Please watch this video.
So we're going to expect civil war in the United States. Then you're going to have the Americans start to attack Venezuela and possibly other countries in South America. So America is in for a bad time, okay? China, Japan and China and India, they're all going to have conflicts with each other. But also what we should expect is that America starts to embargo China, meaning America uses its sea power to block China from accessing resources from overseas. And China imports most of its oil and a lot of its food. So if there's a blockade of China, you can expect the Chinese economy to really suffer, okay? All right. And then what we can expect to happen is America at some point will go to war with Iran, and this will destroy both countries, okay? Iran will not lose this war, but it won't win this war either because America is just going to bomb the crap out of Iran. It's just going to send Iran back decades. But America will lose this war, but this is important because if America loses this war, it's forced out of the Middle East. And once it's forced out of the Middle East, all its military assets goes to Israel, which creates the Pax Judaica. Yeah, does that make sense, guys? That's the plan. Okay, now you have Pax Judaica.
So at the end of this video, this professor talks about Pax Judaica, which is basically New World Order. So after the US and Iran go to war with each other, both countries will be destroyed. Neither country will win. The US will be pushed out of the Middle East, but all of the US's assets will then be transferred to Israel. Israel will emerge as the winner. Corporations and tech companies like Google will then move to Israel to create a global surveillance system. Right now, Israel has the most advanced surveillance system in the world. And at the same time, Mossad agents will be all around the world like they are right now, creating division and chaos. And for that, you need financing. So the banks from the US will also move to Israel. And the Israeli currency will then become the global dominant currency. Does that make sense? That is how we arrive at Pax Judaica, the New World Order. But here is the slither of hope that we have. So back in September of last year, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan signed a defense pact that had the language of a NATO-style alliance, which is something that no Muslim nations ever had before. This is what the West fears deeply, is all of the Arab nations, all of the Muslim nations, creating a NATO-style alliance. This would threaten their power, which is why they poured trillions of dollars to create chaos and instability in the entire eastern region. Here's what's interesting. The UAE is normalizing relations with Israel, and that threatens Saudi Arabia's sovereignty. So Saudi Arabia is quietly creating diplomatic relations with Iran when they historically have been enemies. It is unity. Unity is the only thing that can save us from Pax Judaica and New World Order.
Shalom. I would like to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Kagadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace to the hopeful that scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. So, as y'all saw in the beginning of this video, there were the predictions of what 2026 is going to look like. And basically, it's looking like war, collapse, and all hell breaking loose based off what they're saying. And so I agree with everything that was said, besides the point where they mentioned how Israel would basically collect all of the U.S.'s assets and come out on top, and the whole world would basically flow through Israel. No, because what they was going into was basically World War III and the end. And the stuff that they was talking about, I mean, all that comes to pass, it's over. It's over with. And so there's not going to be a point where Israel is on top, the rest of the world follows suit. Like, now, the playing field is evened when you factor in nuclear arms. And so in the case or the event when Iran and the U.S. go to war and either country win and they wipe each other out, I mean, that's just biblical prophecy we're talking about being fulfilled at that point. So let me just jump right into the scriptures. This is Job 18:5. Yeah, the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him. The steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. So the elites are only going to be able to get but so far in their NWO agenda. And notice how they did mention how Israel would be at the forefront of the NWO, Judea, right? And so the very thing that the elites hold near and dear to their hearts is going to lead to their demise. And so that's just what it is, you know. Continuing on. Verse 8, for he is cast into a net by his own feet, and he walketh up. He walketh upon a snare. The gin shall take him by his heel, and the robber shall prevail against him. The snare is laid for him in the ground, and a trap for him in the way. Terror shall make him afraid on every side, and shall drive him to his feet. So remember, you know, the elites may think in their minds that they're going to be able to implement their NWO, but as for the other nations, they're going to have a say-so in that matter. And, you know, with the U.S. taking over Venezuela, you know, that's the elites back in that move. Trump, he's really just a face. He doesn't have no say-so. And so the way I see it, the elites are just trying to collect as many assets as they can in these final days so that when the collapse of the system happens, they're going to be the ones that come out on top. Mind you, they're the ones that are controlling the demolition of this system. So that's why it's not hard to see the signs and the writing on the wall. You know, a lot of people are saying that all hell's going to break loose in 2026. You know, war, financial collapse, the dollar will be replaced by a digital currency, which is tied into CBDC, which is also going to be tied into the mark of the beast, right? And so the elites, they know what they want to do and what their plans are. And so what better way for them to implement their plans than to be the ones that bring in the destruction along with the solution. Therefore, the people are going to be more willing to participate in the next or new system that's going to be coming in. So let's get another scripture. And this is in no specific order. You know, I just got these all lined up. Revelation 18:21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. So that great city Babylon is America. And so with war breaking out in the Middle East and Iran and the U.S. wiping each other out, you know, that's prophecy in and of itself right there. You know, that's World War III. And so that's going to lead me to my next scripture, 2 Ezra 15:30. Also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood. The Carmanians are the Iranians. Okay? And with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. The land of the Assyrians is America. It's code for America. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. So the dragon is a representation of China and Iran are allies. I mean, that's just facts. I have it right here. It says China and Iran are strategic partners with deep economic, political, and military ties formalized by a 25-year comprehensive strategic partnership, but they are not formal military allies with mutual defense pacts. The relationship serves mutual interests in countering U.S. influence. So that's going to be the thing that brings many nations together. It's just, for years and years, America's been the hammer on earth. And so you're going to have nations that stand up to that power and influence in these final days. It also says securing energy and expanding trade, though with differing levels of commitment and potential friction points. China benefits from Iranian energy while Iran gains crucial economic support, sanctions relief, and military tech, creating a significant bloc counterbalancing Western influence. And that's another thing. When another country does something that the West doesn't agree with, they slap sanctions on them. And so what other countries would like to do is get in a position where the sanctions don't even affect them anymore. But the thing is, so many nations have become dependent on the U.S. over the years that when the U.S. falls, other nations are going to fall with it. And it says that also in Revelation chapter 18. Let me see if I can get the verse real quick. Revelation 18 and 15, the merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. So many countries have gotten rich off America because America is a great consuming nation. Countries sell their goods to the U.S., import, export. And so the elites, they're trying to remain on top when this system comes crashing down. And so resources like oil and energy, they play a crucial role. And that's really the whole point of them taking over Venezuela. They want the oil. Venezuela is actually the largest oil reserve in the earth. And then I believe second is Saudi Arabia. So, with Saudi Arabia being up in the air and, the U.S. really not having much power and influence over there, why not take over Venezuela? And they even talking about taking over Mexico and other countries like Colombia in the name of them bringing in, drugs. Like they're saying that since illegal narcotics is being brought in, that's their reason to invade. But if it's really about that, then why don't you do something about them people that is on that list? Why doesn't Trump do something about the people that's on the list? You care more about narcotics being brought in than you do, people being violated. I'll say it like that. So that goes to show you that it's really not Trump that's making this move, it's the elites. You know what I'm saying? He's just following suit. And the old saying, all wars is bankers' wars. So believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. Let's get another scripture of Jeremiah 49 and 17. Also, Edom shall be a desolation. Everyone that goes by it shall be astonished and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. And that's another thing, The U.S. is also known as the land of Edom. And so with that being the case, this place is going to be wiped out. Not only that, but Israel, they're going to be wiped out as well. Continuing on, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbors cities thereof, saith the Lord. No man shall abide there, neither shall the Son of Man dwell in it. So what the predictions of 2026, what they were basically talking about is the end. So are we gonna see the end this year? Is that what's gonna happen? Because that's what they're talking about, whether they realize it or not. because ain't gonna be no continuation of these wicked elites society, after that nuclear button gets pressed. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna come out on top. They're not gonna arise from their doomsday bunkers and touch the earth again and say, you know what, let's rebuild. And we're gonna be the ones that are at the helm. No, that's not gonna be the case. So let's get another scripture. Matthew 24:7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. So, and it's in a time of civil war, because remember they mentioned civil war. There's going to be also a time of persecution. You know what I'm saying? So what's taking place is the controlled demolition of this system. And so it's always going to happen from within. So it starts off with internal war. Okay? And people not seeing eye to eye, and a difference between politics, and then it's going to make its way towards the total societal collapse. You know what I'm saying? Which that's what the elites want, which is going to be tied into the financial institution, which then will give them a reason to implement the CBDC system, which is going to be tied to Revelation 13 and 16. You dig what I'm saying? So, actually, I want to read verse 7. Verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So, at the very start of this year, the U.S. military is making major moves, taking over Venezuela and capturing the president, right? But those that are in the knowledge should be aware that that ain't nothing but just them trying to control assets and resources. That's what it comes down to. All that money or whatever that they make from controlling Venezuela, you think it's gonna go into the reconstruction of Venezuela or anything like that? Hell no. They're gonna divide that money amongst themselves, the elites. They're gonna be sitting at the table, counting that money up. But, oh yeah, here's your taste. You know what I'm saying? So I even heard how Venezuelan Americans, they was happy when they got taken over, when their country got taken over by the U.S. But historically, what country has really ever prospered when they've been colonized? I'll wait. Is Panama doing well when the U.S. took over the canal? Obviously not. Is Puerto Rico doing well? And Puerto Rico is supposed to be rich in resources too. No, not really. The people there, they live modest lives. And they don't really get to collect none of what they produce. You know what I'm saying? So really everything on this earth, as far as wealth and resources, it's just monopolized. And so that's why you have groups formed such as BRICS, with Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and also South Africa, forming, and you know, it all just comes down to resources and being a counter towards Western influence. And so, you know, the West is also has control over the EU, the UN, and NATO, which these are all European countries that are aligned. But at some point, the allies of the US, you know, NATO, the EU, and the UN, they're going to turn against the US because they know what the U.S. is. They know what they know what it is. They see it for what it is, which is just a hammer on earth. You know, America is it's just nothing but a tool. And so eventually they're gonna turn on this place. You know, the U.S. is just looked at as disposable. You know, that's really what this whole system is about. It's just about exploitation and, you know, the elites making money off it. And once they've squeezed the limit for every final drop, then that's when they're just going to dispose with it and then set up a new system. Whether it still be, you know, running through the U.S. or what they think it's going to be running through Israel. Because really, as quiet as it's kept, but is it really kept quiet? The small hats, they run everything on this earth. They control everything. And that's just the truth. So, you know, the nations are waking up to that fact and that truth. So I believe that's it. I don't have any more scriptures. So in conclusion, they're saying that 2026 is looking like war, civil war, financial collapse, and World War III. Which if they talking like that, then they're basically talking about the end. Like, all hell's gonna break loose this year. So that's the predictions. So the way they're talking is on, man. We'll see how this year plays out and what happens next. But so far, it ain't looking too good for peace. So much for peace. Because remember when that man ran and said that he's going to bring peace. He's going to stop World War III. But we're inching closer towards World War III. I mean, it's obvious with the way that the elites are trying to seize assets before the collapse and the way that they're setting the people of this society up for the NWO agenda. You know, people are going to be so desperate and looking for solutions that they're going to fall right into the trap of the NWO. You know what I'm saying? So, again, we'll see how this year plays out. So I'll end it on that note. Peace.